What's happening, YouTube? KitePlanet here, or Kite if you're like that. Some people aren't like that, but I'm like that. We got a special video today. I know you've been seeing I do the anime crossovers. I'm trying to bring all the power system intellect people here. I'm trying to stimulate the brains with these videos. So today we're going to be creating a curse technique and a domain expansion for my boy Natsu. But this video is a little bit different. Normally, you know, if you go check out my last video, I gave Arthur Boyle a Bankai, right? And I gave Toji a Nin ability. So if this is your first time in this series, go check those videos out. They'll be linked at the end, and there's a playlist on my page. You can go look at all those. The videos are pretty good. But normally I just discuss the abilities, but with Natsu, I felt like he was given not a fair shake in like media, because people was like, Natsu, power of friendship this, and he only won because the power of friendship. And you know, so what? That may be true, but I don't think we took Fairy Tail for what it was, which was just a great experience in general. The Fairy Tail experience is just a calm, cool. I loved watching that series. I really did. One of my favorites. So I'm going to do justice by Natsu and make up for all of that by giving him a great lore, not just a curse technique and a domain expansion, but lore on how he even gets into the JJK verse at all. So you know how in Jujutsu Kaisen they tell us cursed energy comes from negative emotions. They tell us where cursed energy comes from, but they don't tell us precisely where cursed techniques came from, how cursed techniques came about. Well, Kite is going to tell you exactly how cursed techniques came about and I'm going to use Natsu as my vessel to do so in this video. So let me set the scene for you. Long ago, before even the Heian period, before Sukuna existed, before Kenjaku, before even Master Tengen, before the Heian period in general, the period that preceded that was the Nara period. And the Nara period was a period plagued by dragons. Dragons ruled the earth and terrorized everyone in their domain. So they were the closest beings on earth to gods. That's how the people saw them. So most people wouldn't even mess with dragons back then. But of course, you have the rowdy bunch of people that want to try their might. That is just how it is. That's how most people die in Jujutsu Kaisen. They challenge people who are stronger than them. And there's no plot armor really in Jujutsu Kaisen. I know y'all love to say Sukuna has plot. I mean, if you just read it, you'll realize he doesn't. But you die if you do something stupid, essentially, in Jujutsu Kaisen. So we're going to keep with that theme. There's essentially dragon people who hunt dragons. I don't know what you want to call them. Maybe dragon slayers, perhaps. But they hunt the dragons of this period. There's not very many of them. You could probably, fit them in a small village, the amount of people. So, of course, there's this one rowdy dude named Natsu. This is where curse techniques come from. Each dragon possesses a unique magical ability. And so remember, this is before the Heian period, before curse techniques even exist. We haven't went further back than the Heian period. So we don't even know in the current lore of JJK, but I'm telling you because, I'm in cahoots with the author and stuff. But curse techniques didn't exist before the Heian period. They existed in the form of dragons with magical abilities. And the way you got a curse technique was by killing a dragon. So Natsu was the greatest dragon slayer of them all. He managed to kill 3 dragons, retaining 3 different curse techniques. Well, they're all one curse technique, but they're 3 different abilities. So there was a bunch of people managed to kill 1 dragon if they were lucky. Natsu managed to kill 3, and he died at the young age of 21, unfortunately, because when you fight dragons all of your life, you die. You don't get that happy ending. If you're fighting dragons, you're going to eventually die by one. So Natsu died by one. So what happened was when Kenjaku was doing the culling games, he accidentally, something messed up in the binary code of the curse technique that he was using to bring everybody back, or the cursed object, whatever he did to bring all the sorcerers back from the past. He accidentally brought back somebody from before his period. He accidentally got some DNA mixed up and made a pact with something, and it brought Natsu to current Jujutsu Kaisen. And now he's like a reincarnated sorcerer. So let's now talk about the curse technique and domain that Natsu possesses now that he's reincarnated and he exists. So His curse technique is called Dragon's Hoard. Fitting, because he's hoarded all the powers that he's got from killing the dragons, and he's only killed 3. So the first dragon he killed, the powers he got from that was the lightning flame dragon. And so he can conjure lightning and flames. But normally he doesn't really use these to attack. This is just not Natsu's style. He uses them more for augmentation. So he uses lightning to cloak himself and move very fast. And the flames, kind of more for offensive things. They just burn people. They set up walls. More distraction techniques, because fire, yeah, it burns people. But in his time, the fire wasn't enough to hurt the dragons. Dragons are essentially immune to fire. So when he gets into the current JJK verse, he's going to assume that the people are strong too, seeing that they have abilities. So he's going to be like, you know what? My fire perhaps won't work on them. So he's not going to use it at first. That's just not how he uses it. I'm sure as he begins to develop and fight other curse users, because he's not used to fighting curse users, he's going to realize, oh, my flames hurt them and my flames do a lot of damage. But that's just not how he originally uses them against dragons. He uses them for augmentation to support and, reinforce his body. Next, we have the dragon he killed second, and that was the black scaled dragon. And the black scaled dragon was said to be the toughest dragon of the Nara period that existed. No one ever managed to pierce or even scratch the scales of the dragon. You might be wondering, then how did Natsu kill him? Well, Natsu took a different approach, and he managed to get inside of the dragon and kill it by destroying its organs and all that stuff. And eventually he crawled his way out back through the mouth after he killed it. So after he killed that dragon, he got the ability to create black scales all over his body, essentially give him the hide of the strongest, toughest dragon from that period. And he coats his fist. It's kind of like hockey, but it takes on a more dragonoid form. So he gets the claws of the black scale dragon, and he can slice and scratch, cut through anything, essentially, basically. So that's really damaging. And then when he combines it, he can also combine each one of these. He's not limited to using them consecutively. He can use them simultaneously. He can turn his arm into the black scale dragon with the claws and coat it in lightning and attack with lightning, or he can do it with flames. So yeah, that's how he uses that. And he can also use the black scale as his best line of defense. Nothing that he's ever seen since the dragon period has ever pierced it. So he believes it to be, an absolute defense, just like Gojo believes his infinity is an absolute defense. So the third dragon he managed to kill and steal the powers from was the Dimension Shift dragon. This dragon was the most elusive dragon in history. Hundreds and multiple periods passed before anyone was even able to spot this dragon. They would only get glimpses of it. The last thing you would see was its tail floating into a dimensional rift that it created. And so Natsu uses this ability not by shifting his body. He himself can only shift through the dimensions, every now and then, because it's not a power he's managed to fully grasp before he died. It was the last dragon he killed, so he hasn't mastered this ability. He himself, he can't shift giant things. He can only create a dimension the size of like a soccer ball. So obviously, he can't fit through that. But I'm sure if he was able to exist longer, he would have mastered that. But he died at a young age. He died at 21 from fighting all those dragons. You won't live very long, as I say. So the best thing he does with this ability is when he punches through a dimension with the black scale coated in something or not coated, it doesn't matter. He can choose to coat it or not, or he can just use cursed energy. He can punch through the rift, and he makes that rift appear where on the other side wherever he wants. So he can make it appear on your skin, and it just hits you. There's no way to stop it. He punches and it hits you. So the only thing about it is, I take that back. Elemental things cannot travel through these rifts. So it's only a punch, a regular punch that can get through it with cursed energy, but it does hit you. There's no way really to avoid it unless you get close up to Natsu, so where he doesn't even use that ability. Because even if you dodge, it's going to appear on you if he can see you. But if you can get out of his sight, then it won't hit you. Obviously, that's the drawback to the ability. So those are his 3 abilities. He has the flame lightning powers that he uses to augment his body, and he can also use flame and lightning to attack. So the second ability is black scale, which he uses for defense. He can also conjure the black scales all over his body, and they take on a dragonoid form. So he gets like claws, and he gets kind of like horny things, and his nose comes out, looks more dragonoid. So I said so. Now, the third ability is the dimension shift, which he can basically do what Leorio does in Hunter x Hunter and teleport his punch, emit his punch to a different area that he can see. If he can't see it, he can't hit it. But if he can see it, it's going to appear directly on you if he so chooses. He can also make it appear close to you and reach out and gain more momentum and hit you even harder. Depends on how he wants to use the ability. So pretty broken abilities. It's not like he can't be defeated. He can be defeated, but maybe Gojo and Sukuna are probably the only people that have a chance, and even then, I think he's still stronger than them. He may be stronger than them in, his actual verse, but that's not the point. Those are his techniques. You can let me know what you think about Natsu's techniques and how he acquired them. He was one of the people who got a curse technique from its source. It doesn't just pass down through the bloodline like it does for these other guys of today's era and the past eras, but they were future eras to him. So now let's get into Natsu's domain expansion. Okay, so you remember how I said Natsu managed to kill 3 dragons and take their powers, which eventually in today's Jujutsu Kaisen verse are considered curse techniques. Well, he killed 3 dragons, but he fought many, many more dragons. He was fighting dragons his entire life. From the time he was 15 to the time he was 21, he was fighting dragons any chance he got. And dragons ruled the world. They were everywhere. There was only a few that were elusive, like the dimension shift and then the other magical abilities. Like the shadow dragon was also a dragon that people never really managed to fully fathom. They never had a chance to behold that dragon because they never really got a good eye on it. So he fought hundreds of dragons. His domain expansion is he does his hands like this. Let me back this up. The claw across. And he says, Great Dragon Migration. And it opens up a barrier. I'm giving him a barrier domain expansion. I'm not going the Sukuna route where I give him barrierless and he's just absolutely broken. But we're giving him a barrier. So once he activates Great Dragon Migration, every dragon he's ever fought is summoned and they all use their powers at once to attack the person inside the domain. There's no escaping it. They just fire indiscriminately. So you may say, hey, Toji and Maki, they could get out of that, which they can. They can get outside of the domain because it treats them like an object or a building. But if they so happen to be in the domain at the time of it activating and they don't get out instantly, they will be hit with all of those techniques. They may get lucky and get hit with like a weaker curse technique dragon, like say there was a slime dragon. So they may get hit with some slime and get out lucky. But if the destruction dragon's technique hits you, I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a heavenly restriction or not. It's going to hit you because you were in its range and it wasn't targeting you. It was targeting just down in that area and you were in that area, so it hits you. I think that's how it works because that's how Sukuna's works. If Maki were to go into the range of Sukuna's domain, she would die. Not because she's being targeted by the Cleave and Dismantle, but because Cleave and Dismantle just shoot out and attack indiscriminately. They vaporize and erase everything in the area. It's the same way for Natsu's technique, but just inside of the barrier. They can get out easily, and it's not targeting them. It's not going to follow them around. It just shoots down, and all the dragons are above, and they shoot their powers down. They don't target anybody. So Natsu's obviously immune to it, but that's how his domain expansion works. Pretty broken. I don't think there's anybody that could survive that. Only probably obviously Maki and Toji, they could get out, but everybody else, including Sukuna and Gojo, because you got to remember Natsu has the dimension shift dragon. So the dimension shift dragon is just going to shoot its breath directly onto Gojo. There's no way he's going to be able to block it with infinity. It's going to appear on him, and infinity is not on Gojo. It's dividing the space between him and whatever is coming to him. The dimension shift dragon's ability is not coming to him. It's appearing on him. So yeah, even Gojo can't survive this. I mean, obviously they can use domain amplification, hollow wicker basket, and all that stuff. Falling rose blossom, falling blossom emotion, whatever. They can use that stuff, domain amplification, to block it. But once it breaks through that, you're pretty much a goner. Natsu's overpowered. His domain expansion is probably a guaranteed kill, just like Gojo's and a lot of other people's. I don't know what Yuta's domain does, but similar to Gojo's, if you're in it, you're pretty much done for unless you're a super high level person. But just based on his techniques, there's not many people that can take him out. Maybe Takaba has a chance, but I don't even think Gojo has a chance. Sukuna probably doesn't. They could beat him by pure like outsmarting them and outsmarting him and using his techniques. But you know, if Natsu decides to lock in and get his battle IQ going, there might be raps for them. He's cutting through stuff and he just has hacky abilities. So let me know your thoughts on this ability. Yes, it's overpowered, but it's Natsu, and I even gave him a backstory to explain why he's overpowered. That also explains why Sukuna is the way he is and why he's going on a tear. It's not because he has plot. It's simply because he understands curse energy better than anyone. He's also spent his whole life fighting curse users, where everybody alive today that he's smoking down has been fighting curses. Curse users are better than curses. They're stronger, they're smarter, they're innovative, their abilities are quirky and weird. Honing your skills against curse users makes you significantly more stronger than somebody who's honed their skills against curses. That is why Sukuna is that strong. Now imagine Natsu, who has spent his time honing his short time alive against dragons, something that is stronger than even curse users and curses alike. These beings were the closest thing to gods. They could rend the earth. Many of them could destroy the earth if they just took their time and did it, if they wanted to, but you're not going to destroy the thing you live on. So that is why Natsu's abilities are broken. It's just the time period he lived in was something so cutthroat, so vicious, your family could die in their sleep. That sounds morbid, but if a dragon passes over your house and then just decides, hey, I don't like the way that looks, it's in my area, boom, blows it up, you get smoked in your sleep. So that's the type of world Natsu was living in, and that's why his abilities are this strong. I didn't want to give him something weak. So I wanted to implement the fact that he had lore coming in. So he managed to get in through the culling games and all that stuff. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on give me some feedback on if you like the lore. I can start adding more lore on how people get into the verses if you like that, if you like the storytelling part. So really give me your feedback if you care to. You obviously don't have to, but if you're not going to do that, give me your thoughts or give me your suggestions on what characters you want to see and what power systems, as always, so I can start combining, creating more stuff. I got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline. The things are coming out. I have to craft them. I got to make them nice, guys. I can't just give you half-baked stuff. But yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will catch you in the next one, guys. Peace. 大事にしなかった私の頭は無理みたいなんだ